evening, voters. The NIA, the National Investigative Agency, carried out a big operation today across 17 locations in Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. They arrested 10 suspects and then told the media how they have busted a terror module where suspects had locally made guns, weapons, explosives, even a rocket launcher, and that they were planning fedayeen attacks across our country. The investigation by the NIA continues. They tell us that they will perhaps be arresting more suspects as they bust this module and dig deeper. Now, the interesting part is, and this is why it is also concerning, this group isn't associated with any other national or even international terrorist group or even an individual terrorist. There is no known big source of funding or a money trail so far. Apparently, some of these suspects even stole and sold their family jewelry just to fund this operation. They were radicalized via social media, self-radicalized, where they got all the material. They even got in touch with each other via social media. This group also includes youngsters, engineers studying in various colleges of national capital, Delhi. This group includes suspects who've been arrested with no past criminal record. So tonight, let us understand, viewers, just how serious is the case at hand. The Islamic State, the ISIS, may have officially been destroyed, but do ISIS-type or ISIS-inspired modules still exist? Are they still mushrooming? Because of late, many such modules have been uncovered in our own country. Is social media still fueling radicalization, and to what extent? And are we as a nation really prepared to handle such challenges? That is the big debate on the other side of this report.
An ISIS-inspired terror group. Raids across multiple locations. 10 suspects arrested. Items such as a rocket launcher, explosives and other weapons seized. The National Investigation Agency foiled a terror plot and revealed the chilling details.
Large quantities of explosive material, weapons, ammunition, including a country-made rocket launcher, have been recovered so far. Nearly 100 mobile phones, 135 SIM cards, laptops, memory cards have also been seized from the accused persons.
The module was planning suicide attacks and serial blasts targeting politicians and government installations.
They had plans to carry out terrorist attacks at vital installations, at security installations, security personnel, some important persons and crowded places. जिस लेवल की प्रिपरेशन थी उससे ये कहा जा सकता है कि जल्दी ही इनका धमाका करने की कोशिश थी और इनके दो फोकस थे. एक तो ये कि रिमोट कंट्रोल्ड बॉम्ब्स बनाए जाएं और दूसरा ज़रूरत पड़ने पे फिदाइन अटैक किया जाए.
Among the many items recovered from the raids across 17 locations in Delhi, Meerut, Amroha and Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh include a locally made rocket launcher, material for suicide vests, 100 alarm clocks intended to be used as timers, a huge cache of handmade weapons, hundreds of live rounds of bullets, 100 mobiles and 135 SIM cards. Those arrested include the alleged mastermind, 29-year-old Mohammad Sohail from Amroha in Uttar Pradesh, an engineering student in a private university in Noida, and a third-year graduation student in humanities, as well as 2 welders.
This group met on a social media platform around 3 months back. They were self-radicalized and then they decided to form a group on messaging app Telegram. They have no criminal record. Some of them are well educated. One of them is studying in a private university in Noida. So it's a very disturbing trend where youngsters in the age group of 20 to 30 get radicalized on social media and then plan to carry out a terror strike.
The agency even found a video from Sohail demonstrating how to complete a bomb circuit. The NIA also suspects that the module has foreign-based handlers, but their identity and location is still being probed.
Let's say good evening to RP Singh, National Secretary for the BJP, Deepak Sharma, founder for India Samvad, Vikram Singh, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, Observer Research Foundation, and Maruf Raza, Strategic Affairs Expert and Consulting Editor to the Times Network. And Maruf, let's start with you and how you view this case that has now come to light, and of course in the series of other similar terror modules that have been busted in the last couple of years.
This is perhaps one of the very big
Tanvi, is the question for me?
exposes that the NIA and the police have finally put together and brought to our knowledge about the scale of preparation that a whole lot of these individuals have indulged in. But having said that, let me try and explain and make a little more sense about why this has suddenly come to us, because until now, for most of us, we have been preoccupied with Pakistan-sponsored cross-border terror attacks and also certain groups within India who were bought out or sort of supported by Pakistan, such as the Indian Mujahideen, to create upheaval in India to show that there is a disconnect between the Muslims and the non-Muslim population in the country. But really the problem is two or three. One is that the easy accessibility of internet-related propaganda across the world has always been ISIS's strongest point in reaching out to people right across the world. And ever since they've been hounded out of their core area of success, which was in Iraq, Kurdistan and those areas, after the joint operations of Americans, Russians, Iraqis, etc., they decided to launch what they called wilayats, which is provinces across the world where they would build up constituencies for the support of this hardline ISIS ideology, which is completely in contradiction to the kind of eclectic, accommodative Islam that India has traditionally witnessed. Because the ISIS essentially believes that if you are with them, you are a good Muslim. Otherwise, if you're not with them, but you still call yourself a Muslim, you're as much a target of theirs as any other community which is a non-Muslim community. So how do we deal with it? We need to really study this phenomena in great detail. The good thing is, per capita, we still have one of the lowest ISIS recruitment presence, and those who have gone across to the Middle East to try and become gallant soldiers there ended up becoming drivers, cooks and masalchis. You really didn't have, unless you are Arabic speaking, ISIS was not accommodating you as a frontline soldier and giving you the opportunity to go and die and call yourself a shaheed. So those are facts and figures that are known to us. We have not yet come together with a new comprehensive strategy to deal with this problem, because this problem is now going to grow as ISIS doesn't have any success to boast about in the Middle East, where they've been beaten and hounded out. They're going to look for pockets. And coincidentally, 3 states of India, beginning with K, Kashmir, Karnataka and Kerala, have seen elements who seem to veer more towards the ISIS kind of ideology and try and look for opportunities there. There have been cases in Chennai and Andhra Pradesh also. There is the possibility of a spillover effect from Pakistan, where elements in Pakistan's intelligence agencies would use these disaffected youth to utilize this opportunity to further create confusion in India. So it's a multi-pronged threat. We have to understand the ideology, we have to understand how to counter that ideology, and we have to put more and more mechanisms in place on the ground instead of wasting any time. Because if this continues, you will find bright men who are engineers and professors and all, who get picked up by this kind of stuff, who feel that their hour of reckoning will finally come when they blow up a building
Yes.
or use a rocket launcher to kill people. And this is what has been happening all over the world. We have been spared from it, but I
Yes.
don't think we can be complacent anymore.
Yes, and you know, you don't even need an active Islamic State kind of an organization to reach out to youngsters now, because all of this material is now easily available on the internet for anybody who goes on any of the social media platforms or elsewhere, and which is what is emerging as a pattern. Self-radicalized, educated youngsters studying in colleges, studying engineering, who now have access to this, are picking this up and plotting their own plans. Sushant, Sareen, do you agree with what Maruf is saying, that we don't also have a comprehensive policy to deal with these challenges?
Actually, I agree entirely with what Maruf has said, not just the way he has panned out the entire problem, but also where the pitfalls of combating this lie. One, I think, although we must give due credit to the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement agencies for busting this particular module, and they apparently must have been tracking these guys down for a fair bit of time and finally swooped down when they thought the time is ripe. But having said that, I think there is a case to be made for enhancing the capabilities as well as the capacities of the law enforcement agencies. Also, within the law enforcement agencies, I think there is a case to be made for making these people aware of even the basics of Islam, Islamic theology, Islamic philosophy. It's too vast a subject for anybody to become a master in it, but at least the basics should be known. And in most cases, we see that most of the people in the law enforcement agencies can't even read Urdu. They don't understand the language properly, and they are not aware of certain terms and concepts within Islam. So as a result, everything is kind of mixed up together, conflated, confused, and that is a problem. The third aspect of the whole problem is that we as a nation also need to start working on what it's a cliche now, but just because it's a cliche does not make it any less valuable, which is what are the counter narratives. Most of these guys have a somewhat very pulp kind of reading of religion. They take some things, they ignore other things, and then they ignore the entire social milieu in which they belong, and they tend to start getting influenced by trends which are happening outside India. And the first time this emerged actually was when a bunch of about 5 or 6 guys from Bangalore were caught because they were trying to go and join the Al-Qaeda.
Yes.
And this happened about 5 or 6 years back. So the point is that people had started getting influenced some time back by what you can call the international jihadist movements. But over a period of time, I think there is a bit of testosterone, there is a bit of, this pulp religion, there is a bit of manufactured grievances, some real also. But I think it's an amalgam of things which has created this kind of a situation. I agree with Maruf that the problem is still very, very limited in India.
Yeah.
That does not mean we should either be in denial about the problem or we should be complacent or ignore it. But I think the government so far, to give due credit to the government, they haven't exaggerated the problem and they haven't ignored it, and they haven't demonized an entire community. Even when they have come across some people who were getting swayed, they have tried to handle the issues very sensitively so that more people do not get influenced by this. So I think all in all, we are reasonably well placed. But for us to imagine that India is some kind of this unique place which will remain untouched by trends which are wreaking havoc in the rest of the world of Islam, I don't think that's going to happen. So we should, we should really wake up and smell the coffee on that delusion of ours. We are also going to be affected, hopefully not to the extent that many of the other countries have been.
Yes, and that obviously depends on, as a society, how do we behave, and as a government, what is our policy in place. One thing that was very interesting, Mr. Vikram Singh, this is to you. In this case, most of the stuff that was seized, ammunition, pistols, even explosives that are being made, or the material that was there, to the extent of the rocket launcher, was all locally country-made, There is no clear defined money trail. There is no big terrorist sitting somewhere sending in the money to these guys. They're selling their family jewels. It just sounds very, very easy and simple to do. Go to your local market, get hold of few of these chemicals, get one of the blacksmiths to join you and make these weapons for you, and that's that. What's your own view? Does that make it a bigger challenge for the security agencies, or is this something that they've seen in the last 20, 30 years, and so will be easier for them to track down and crack down? Mr. Vikram Singh, that question is to you, sir, if you could hear me. Okay, I think that line may have been dropped there, so we're going to go back to him in just a bit. But let me go across to Deepak Sharma and ask him as well. Deepak, the other interesting part is that while many of the other ISIS-inspired type linked modules have been busted from Kashmir to Kerala and Karnataka and Andhra, this is a first big one that's emerging from Uttar Pradesh.
Tanvi, the kind of weaponry, the kind of guns or the country-made rocket launcher which has been recovered by this module doesn't impresses me. It could be a debatable question that what kind of weaponry has been recovered. So a lot more debate will come in days to come. But we should not forget that there were 16 Muslim youths who were totally radicalized. They were hooked on Instagram, on Telegram, and on WhatsApp. And there was a handler stationed somewhere in Pakistan. Now, this entire thing reminds me of Indian Mujahideen. No one is talking about Indian Mujahideen. Just a decade ago, Indian Mujahideen, a similar module with a similar range of Muslim youths who were in university or who were doing some trade, who were in the age group of 20 to 30. From 2007 to 2013, Indian Mujahideen triggered at least more than 24 blasts in India, killing more than 200 people. And they were operating from Azamgarh. Now, from Azamgarh, there's a transition from Azamgarh to Amroha. So Azamgarh is located in eastern part of UP and Amroha is on the western part of UP. So this module seems to be a new avatar of Indian Mujahideen. And that's a very disturbing and dangerous trend because general elections are not far away from now. So I think it's a very serious concern. And Indian Mujahideen has appeared in its new avatar, I should say.
Indian Mujahideen has appeared in its new avatar. In fact, before I go to RP Singh, let me see if I can get either Maruf or Sushant to also weigh in on this. Sushant, you agree?
Look, I think it's rather premature what Deepak is saying. I would say it's premature at this point in time. He might well be right. I can't doubt his his knowledge on these issues, but I would pass such a analysis. Maybe if I had some more information available in front of me. With the information which I have in front of me, I can't say that you can rule it out completely because the Pakistanis are quite capable of it. But I haven't seen any evidence to agree with Deepak completely. Having said that, I think the point which Deepak also makes about the kind of weaponry which was there is a point which some other people have made also in some of the earlier encounters which have happened, including the one in Lucknow. Again, people who were linked with the ISIS. Now, most of these guys are quite clueless on how the internet works. They think that because some service provider tells you a particular service is encrypted, it means nobody can get to know what you are talking to each other. I'm afraid they've got a rude shock. The other thing is that most of these guys, their links are more in terms of the inspiration they have drawn from the kind of stuff which has been floating around in the net.
Yes.
I haven't come across anything to suggest that these guys were directly linked to the ISIS in West Asia. So there is still no evidence on that. They might have been inspired by that nonsense, but whether there were any physical or virtual links has still not been established, nor a money trail as yet, considering the fact that whatever has come out, the money trail is that these guys were selling their own family silver to build what was probably only a very rudimentary kind of a bomb which might have actually killed them rather than killing anybody else. That does not mean that these guys were not radicalized, that these guys were not dangerous, and that if these guys had proper weaponry, they could not have caused mass destruction. That would have happened. Thankfully, most of these guys are idiots, and most of these guys do not have either the wherewithal or the resources to carry much damage, and they get caught out pretty fast. So I think to that extent, we are pretty fortunate that mostly it's the idiots who are going and joining these groups and getting caught.
Well, so I do agree with you on that aspect, and I think that's what NIA also seems to have indicated so far to us. There is no direct link to Middle East apart from one so-called handler who they were in touch with, but everything else seems to be locally homegrown and how they've come together, which for me is more interesting and concerning.
There's one point which I want to make.
Yes, Mr. Deepak Shabak, if you could just hold on for a minute, because RP Singh hasn't spoken yet, and let me just get his opening comments and I will come back to you. RP Singh, so the question to you is that does our government have a clear, comprehensive plan to ensure that our youth who have so much of access to social media and information is just floating around everywhere do not easily get radicalized and get access to this material that they need to carry out a terror attack?
See, all this need a multiple level of working, and then the government is already working on it. And I disagree with my friend Sushant. He's a very learned person, that the agencies don't have wherein with how to deal with such people, or they don't have the people who understand Urdu or doesn't know the Islamic system. Had that not been there, the agency would not have been able to track this. But yes, I accept that whereas we need to deal with what's floating on in social media, what's being taught in various masjids or various other places which is spread around, that need to be taken care. And also gradually try to build an alternate narrative for the community also. I strongly feel that, and then government is already working on that how do we build alternate narrative for the community also, for youngsters from a particular community, so they don't get swayed. And also agencies are doing their job, which is tracking all such instance or all such people who are joining these group or the new form groups. And obviously internet is being tracked, as Maruf rightly said. I mean, people who think that WhatsApp or Telegram or other mediums can't be tracked, when gone are those days. Agencies are smart enough, they track each and everything. And
Mr.
we are
Singh,
very sure that once
Mr. Singh, so let's take that point by point.
Can I complete another second?
Yes.
So we have to wait for another 3-4 days before the final outcome of the complete this game plan comes out, how that exactly it happened, and what is the complete game. Although 3 months they have tracked this now, but once the people are caught now probably they will join the dots together and find it out who all are involved, how things are done. Although primarily it's being said that it's all internal, there is no foreign hand, and there are certain people who got swayed within the system, within the Indian groups only. So we have to wait for another 2-3 days before the final outcome.
We don't have to sit and
start coming to know about it.
Yes, we don't have to sit and say this is the final information and all the information that we will ever have on this case. I'm not saying that, but you say we are working on a plan. Are you not going too slow with that? Shouldn't there already be a large-scale de-radicalization and awareness plan implemented in our country, considering that the big threat of ISIS has already peaked, considering that the big threat of social media and the information available there and the abuse and misuse of that platform has already peaked? Why are we still saying that the government knows about it and is working on it? Shouldn't it already be in place?
Ministry of Minority Affairs is already working on it. It's not that they are trying to work on it. It's already working on it. There are things which have been worked by them to ensure, and even by the various state governments, they have been persuaded to work on these particular plans, which is to ensure that all these places where madrasas and even through various masjids and through molanas, and I mean, there's a counter plan which is happening. You see a lot of people who come on TV channels, they categorically, even from the radical, from the clerics who comes and openly condemn all this. I mean, it's not that they support in any fashion all this. I've seen through various TV channels today, clerics have been openly condemning this. So this is an effort which is done. It's not that it has happened overnight. So this is an effort which is ongoing effort.
Point taken. I will go to our experts as well on it, and whether they agree with you on that point.
People who lead the community.
Yes. No, what the community, individual society and the community have to do is a different aspect. I'm just asking you about the government. Vikram Singh is back with us. My apologies, Mr. Singh, you couldn't hear us earlier. But my question to you was, Mr. Singh, that in this specific case that has now emerged, almost it sounds like it's a homegrown module of self-radicalized youth, emerging from Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. Is this something like a challenge that we saw earlier in the 90s and 2000s, or a new challenge that the agencies face today?
Can we view what the experts who have hands-on experience like Mr. Maroof Raza, Sushant Sareen ji, Deepak Mishra ji, and of course we had expert comments from Mr. R.P. Singh as well. My take on this is that he has a new dimension, much more than what happened in the 90s. Your recoveries, there was a bit of disagreement on the recoveries made. Let me tell you that these people had access to factory-made weapons, and no other than they could have accessed the PPK Walthers, the Colt Cobras, or the Webley Scotts. But they chose to have only the indigenous weapons with a sense of purpose. Firstly, they could be acquired and fabricated from the local blacksmith and the local warehouse. You don't require nothing except pipes and lathes. Ammunition that is readily available, like 12 bore, 32, 315, you use it and you have it. Then the new dimension that has come is 125 SIM cards. You don't get a single SIM card without proper verification. How come you got 125 SIM cards? Then the question of having 125 alarm clocks, that means that you were preparing large-scale explosions also, as Mr. Sushant Sareen had said. Then the third thing, the indigenously fabricated rocket launcher, that adds a new dimension, and Mr. Maroof Raza and Mr. Sushant Sareen will tell us that this is for the first time after the left-wing extremism that you have recovered a rocket launcher from this pedigree of anti-national elements. If this is not a new dimension, the alarm bells are loud and clear. It is not in our interest to sweep things underneath the carpet. 90s was something very rudimentary and basic. Today, if I were to say that this is something of a graduation level. Mr. Sushant Sareen was quite hesitant when he tried to commend the government of India for the efforts that they have taken. Of course, the investigating agencies need to be complimented for the superb work that they have done. Of course, a proactive action has been taken. But if these alarm bells are indicative of anything, they are indicating of the thing that there is a well-carved out roadmap, there is a system, and there is a roadmap for the next 24 months or 5 years at least. And to focus something on the VIP movement, our security installations, as also the congregations that are possible in the backdrop of the new year. This is an alarm bell of which the highest cognizance is required, and an extreme national level planning and execution would be required.
Okay.
A planning that takes us to the next level. The basic Thana level policing will not work. District level policing will not work. National level response is what is required.
Okay, point taken. Now, I had two people who wanted to come in. So first going across to Deepak Sharma and then to Maroof Raza. Deepak, go ahead, please.
Tanvi, I just wanted to clarify that I'm not saying that this new module is the part 2 of Indian Mujahideen. I'm only jotting out certain points. There is a lot of similarities between this new module and the older module because both were homegrown in Uttar Pradesh. Both had a similar set of boys who were university going or who were well educated, and also there were some couriers like a welder or something, and there was a mufti or Maulvi involved in this. They were also radicalized. What my point is that we should rely on the evidence of National Investigation Agency because it's not an overnight operation. It's not a 48-hour or 72-hour operation. It took more than 2 months, a two-month long investigation by ATS, which is a very specialized agency, and Vikram Singh, the former DGP, he'll throw light on ATS. He'll also throw light on how parts of UP, right from Azamgarh to Amroha, how some pockets of UP are radicalized. We should accept these harsh realities. So what my point is that it's a very disturbing trend. The only difference what I see is that here there is a nip in the bud. There's a nip in the bud. In earlier stance, it took several years for our investigative agency to bust that module of Indian Mujahideen, which had been operating from the heart of Delhi, right from Azamgarh to the heart of Delhi. And they killed more than 200 people, innocent people. So it's a very disturbing trend. Full marks to NIA because it's a 2-month long investigation.
Okay, point noted, Mr. Sharma. Maruf also had a point, and Maruf, my question to you also the same as what I asked RP Singh. Do we have a good de-radicalization program implemented, or is there a lot of work to do on that aspect?
Well, the answer to your question first, and then a couple of other points that I wish to make. One is that, while there are efforts on, nobody is denying that. But I personally do not see enough evidence of it being effective enough. So if it was, there would always not be the possibility of such surprises suddenly coming to us, and then we start lauding the good work the intelligence agencies have done. Because the fact is that, there are three elements to dealing with terror. One is to be able to prepare, and you prepare continuously, and that is what answers your question about are we doing enough in terms of de-radicalization. Then you preempt, and this is the preempt stage that we have seen where they have identified these guys and caught them just before they were going in for this grand operation. And the final stage is to prevent. And you prevent it by making sure the first two steps have been adequately taken. Now, I personally believe, and I'm being a bit cynical here, some people might say, that we've just been lucky too many times. These kind of warning shots do come up to us, and we get busy talking about for a few days. All sorts of analysis get thrown up, and then we go into a bit of a slumber again. The difference between what this group has been doing now and the Indian Mujahideen are two or three. One is the fact that Indian Mujahideen was very, very clearly propped up and supported financially and in many other ways by Pakistan's intelligence agencies. This was what Pakistan needed as an element to give it a sense of denial and a state of denial about Pakistan's involvement in terror attacks in India. So they created proxies like this. These ideas came into being in Pakistan from the Karachi project of 2002-2003 when they decided how do they create an alternative decoy so that nobody can put the finger of blame always on them. The second thing to understand is why they have resorted to such weaponry. Mr. Singh, who is very, very competent in educating us about these kind of weapon systems, the big difference between Pakistan-sponsored terror groups that largely operate in Kashmir and have sometimes come into Mumbai for 2611, now recently in Punjab, is they get military-level weapon systems and ammunition which is given straight to them with Pakistan factory markings. I can't believe why Pakistan would be so stupid to not remove the factory marking, but they're there. These guys do not have that easy an access to as easy an access to military grade weapon systems. The rocket launcher is certainly a very, very new element to terror weaponization amongst local groups. They pick up a few things. Some of it could be filtering down to them from the porous borders of Nepal or even from the Bangladesh side, where again, Indian Mujahideen type, ISI sponsored or ISI radicalized type or ISIS type groups, they're all hibernating and operating there from time to time, and they're looking to expand their reach. Please understand, the top-notch Western intelligence and police agencies in the world who have a much, much higher police-to-population ratio than we can ever achieve in India, and there are various reasons for that. Police officers will tell you, I don't want to go into it, but we have a very poor police-to-population ratio. And they have not been able to prevent such ISIS, Facebook and social media motivated attacks which cause mayhem in important cities across the world. We are still lucky by many, many chances that we've been given. The fact of the matter is, we do not, I don't think that the fear of going this route is there enough in these kind of individuals who tend to resort to such a plot.
Yes.
And unless they realize, and this has to be, and this is the point I think we need to discuss more about in another show, that all these, arrests do not lead to speedy decisions and people then languish in jails for years and decades. And sometimes, and there are many cases, and this is recorded in a book by Shishir Gupta on the Indian Mujahideen, that they are then freed without enough evidence, and families and individuals are destroyed. So you've got evidence against them, get them on and have speedy addressal of these issues and decide whether they are with us or against us.
Yes.
Don't just announce that you've captured them and then throw them into the gallows and forget about them, because only then the state, and I mean the state of India, would be seen to be very objective in its approach to this problem and not be blamed by the detractors for taking the side of one community and other. We tend to politicize issues which are clearly national security issues, and that really bugs me. But I think that needs to be done also, because that's the next step. You've identified it. And remember one thing, you will always be vulnerable because yours is a success story which contradicts the thesis of the radicalized people who look at one religion, one ideology as the panacea for everything. Much of it is sponsored by many countries outside India, and Pakistan's not the only one funding them.
Which is probably why people would want to
fund them pretty extensively.
And so probably why, Maruf, they would want to target us and break through our barriers a lot more, just to prove that point, like you rightly raised. Quickly going across to one of our viewers, Mr. Gustos on the phone line is calling us from Goa. Go ahead, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Most of your commentators have been speaking about the terror that is being unleashed by ISIS, Indian Mujahideen, and so on. They are concentrating on why they are attracting radicalized youth. My question is, why are the youth getting radicalized in the first place? If you take away the reasons for that, then this problem would not occur. When you start killing people, massacring people, when you start, in the name of cows, in the name of religion, that's the reason why people get radicalized. If there are no radical people, then the ISIS would have no, people to.
Got your point, Mr. Gusto. In fact, to what Maruf was just speaking before we came to you and said that one of those
Tanvi,
reasons... Yes, I know, Sushant, you feel very strongly against this. I'm going to come to you next. But I just want to make this point that Maruf was also pointing out that if there is no speedy addressal of specific cases and justice being done, then it does lead to a lot more of disappointment and disgruntlement within the community, and then the detractors can come in and speak a lot more. So that's one aspect. Sushant, do you want to answer what Gusto is also
one thing
asking?
I want to just...
Yes, and then Mr. Deepak Sharma.
One thing.
I think Tanvi, you make a mistake by mixing up what Maruf was saying, which is a very valid point, to what the gentleman who was asking the question was saying, which is I don't know if there's a polite way of saying it, but utter nonsense. And I'll tell you why. We have this habit in this country of picking up these incidents and then using them as a rationalization or a justification for certain terrorist acts which are committed by other people. Please let me tell you, people who are getting radicalized are not getting radicalized because there's a cow lynching which has taken place or something else. For example, please explain to me that there was no cow lynching or no Yogi or Modi in Belgium or in France or in Germany or in Britain or any of the other European countries. There is no cow lynching or any of these incidents in Africa, in Nigeria with this Boko Haram, in Somalia, or any of the 80-90 countries from where people have made a beeline to go and join the ISIS. So, we are falling for this nonsensical kind of pulp sociology, pulp, terrorism analysis, that it is poverty which is leading to it. All of this is utter nonsense. It's a purely ideological driven thing, and these are people who are driven by an ideological thing. There is a misreading of parts of the religion. Some would say there is a reading of a religion without taking the whole thing into account, but that's another debate altogether. So I think it's important to shoot this down.
No,
Just
okay.
2 or 3
so
small
sorry, I'm
points.
running out of
Number
time, so
one,
I'm going to. I can take your point on this one, but though I disagree with you because there may not be any the same reasons in Belgium as in Africa or India, but there are definitely reasons for sometimes some percentage of your population to be disgruntled and angry enough to move to the other side, and that's something that each and every country has to understand, and each and every society has to understand for itself. For example, it is very clear that even in many European countries, these immigrants, many of them often Muslims, are treated as segregated in certain ways, which can then make them easy prey to anybody who is then looking to mislead them, influence them, and radicalize them. What is happening to the youth of our country, even those who are getting to go to big cities, getting access to education, but still are falling prey to radicalization? We have to sit and think about that. What happens in this case, we will wait and watch for NIA to give us more information of what they have found. How is it that these people living in different cities, different towns of Uttar Pradesh and Delhi actually came together and chose this way of creating weapons and creating bulletproof jackets, rocket launchers, and to take the or wanted to take the Fidain way of attacking various centers or even personalities. Completely out of time, so we're going to thank our panelists. But perhaps the threat of social media when it comes to spreading of radicalization, of radical thoughts, and reaching out to vulnerable people still exists. ISIS or no ISIS, that threat still exists and is very real even in our country, and our government still needs to be on its toes, come out with a comprehensive plan to deal with it and ensure that it never happens again. Thank you for joining us on this big debate.